my friend. Welcome to the study. Let's take a trip today to Brittany. I have some maps, a Michelin road trip guide, and a little booklet, a little booklet about the stone alignments of Carnac. So we'll have a little look at the map of Brittany, especially southern Brittany and Morbihan Basin and Quiberon, one of my favorite surfing spots. And then we'll look at the mysterious megalithic monuments in Brittany and find out a little bit about the people that put them there and about the monuments themselves. So make yourself comfortable and let's listen to the sounds of maps and page turning and whispered guide through the Breton megaliths. Let's begin our journey with the Michelin road trip guide, the green guide. And I have lots of little brochures that we can look at. Here you can see most of Brittany. Brittany begins right about the island of Mont Saint-Michel, the beautiful monastery with a high steepled abbey at the top, and goes through Rennes to Nantes along the Loire and juts out into the Atlantic. We will be looking at this western part of Brittany, namely the southwest coast, down here in the region of Morbihan, which in the Breton language means small sea or little sea. There's the peninsula of Quiberon and the island of Belle-Île. There's also the islands of Glénan and Groix. And a few smaller ones. Morbihan here has lots of islands in it, and 40,000 odd years ago it used to be mostly dry land, and you can find lots of prehistoric archaeological finds and sites on these tiny little islands in Morbihan. Bihan being bay. This area, Quiberon, was also a very busy area during the Napoleonic Wars, so there are a lot of shipwrecks there. So between Morbihan and Port-Louis, you can see lots and lots of megaliths or large stone monuments erected in prehistoric Biscay, the Gulf de Gascogne. Here we have some more leaflets on these megalithic sites. And there you can see the Battle of Morbihan. With all of its little islets. There are between 30 and 40 tiny little islets. And it is an area replete with history. These beautiful small towns like Vannes and Auray, and megalithic sites like Locmariaquer. So we will be traveling to all of those. Let's open up our map of the Bay of Quiberon. So this goes down to the Quiberon Peninsula and up to Lorient and Port Louis, and east to Morbihan, the bay of all the tiny little islands. And just in this area we can see how many megalithic monuments there are that still can be seen today. And there are even more in Morbihan. So we have the big site of Carnac with the alignments or stones in row upon row, aligned. Some people think with the sun, the solstices, and some people question whether it is astronomical. Many of these sites will have alignments or even some barrows where people would have been buried. Here is Trinité-sur-Mer. A lot of sailboat races take place there. And Locmariaquer. And there is the Quiberon Peninsula and all of the great surfing beaches along there, with, of course, more megalithic monuments. So a very rich area for Stone Age. Let's explore it, shall we? going to be looking at 3 sites. Barnenez, the tumulus on the northern Breton coast. A big burial mound, usually on the top of a promontory, that would have contained multiple graves. Carnac, rows of menhirs, or large stones, and Locmariaquer, which is a site with a large dolmen or single-chambered burial with a flat stone and standing stones to hold it up. So we're in the bay of Quiberon and along the coast to see the sites of the alignments of Carnac, the menhirs, Locmariaquer, the dolmen, and onto Barnenez with its giant tumulus. Here you can see the alignments at Carnac, and there are several different sites with aligned stones that make up this huge monument. This is the large tumulus or burial mound structure of Barnenez. You can see it sticks up in the countryside. And at Locmariaquer we have the broken menhir that was pushed over and broke in prehistoric times, as well as a dolmen, the table des marchands, the merchant's table. And inside, when you go under this very large flat stone that looks like a table, you can see ancient carvings on the rocks. We will see all of these today as we tour Brittany's ancient sites. There's also a prehistoric museum at the site. Where we can see artifacts such as tools and pots, also beads and jewelry, you see, that have been found near these megalithic digs. As we begin to look at these megalithic structures, the tumulus, or large burial mound, slab over dolmen, as in the table des marchands, including the cairn with its carvings, as well as the giant menhir that are in alignments in Brittany and in circles in Great Britain. Here you can see there's some in Portugal, Scotland, and the Avebury Stone Circle in Wiltshire. Let's have a look at it. Alignments of Menec, Germario, Gerliscan, and Petit Menec. And there you can see aerial photographs showing the aligned stones, some of them now in sheep paddocks. So the road goes right through that one. See the stones lined up there. Another big site. Some of the stones are small, and some of them are large, taller than 2 men. So quite big and ranging in size. Some of them are as small as perhaps a cow or a pig. The alignments of Carnac. Neolithic temple structures. And there's a photograph, 19th century Brittany, showing a family amongst the aligned stones. And a legend tied to Saint Corneille of a long-horned cow, but was probably an oryx, because we know oryx roamed northwestern Europe during the time these were built. And this describes legends surrounding these mysterious structures. Lots of mystical legends abounded about them. Were they druids? Were they from the gods? Were they representing occult religious rites? One legend says that at night these structures would get up and move to the water so that they could drink. Another legend says they are the petrified legions of Julius Caesar. In the 18th century, they began to be studied more scientifically, and interest was piqued. And you can see there are many different shapes of these stones. And the 19th century, with its neo-Gothic bent, its turn towards national legends and heroes and myths, brought back the interest in druids and stories abounded. And there's one horizontal atop some menhirs. Some early archaeologists or pioneers in their field began to study these and document what they found. Restorations were carried out. And efforts were made to preserve these mysterious stone alignments. such structures, giant standing stones in great rows, going up to what is thought to be a temple or holy place, as in a procession to a rectangular place on a rise or a hill. And here are one of the rectangular structures that pepper this area. The alignments at Carnac comprise over 3,000 menhirs stones, erected between about 4,500 and 3,300 BC. It is the largest megalithic group in Europe and seems to represent, as one archaeologist describes, fields of memory representing a physical and mental or spiritual border, a kind of transition threshold marking a break between two spaces or two worlds. The builders are believed to have been Mesolithic hunter-gatherer peoples, but this remains debated. Finds from the Mesolithic and Neolithic age from these sites include bone hole punches, flint weapons, shell necklaces, engraved stone slabs, and jade jewelry and tools, as well as some pottery and stone or flint arrowheads. The Menhirs alignments comprise 11 rows of menhirs, stretching for more than 1,100 meters and converging at a rectangular tumulus. The largest stones measure over 4 meters high, and smaller ones can be as small as 2 feet. Our next stop is Locmariaquer. On another small peninsula, just at the border of Morbihan Bay. The Locmariaquer megaliths features the broken great menhir, or the menhir brisé, and the merchant's table, or table de marchand, or des marchands. This great broken one is the largest from the prehistoric age in the West. It's a block of granite that was over 20 meters long, now lying on its side in 4 pieces. It towered 18.5 meters above the ground. And it weighed 280 tons. was cut from a type of granite that was unknown several kilometers by Neolithic men. Although it is still uncertain how they moved it and what techniques were used. It is possible that an earth ramp was made to lift it before swinging it into a ditch and wedging it into the earth with stones so it stood erect. Once standing, it was smoothed all over using quartz hammers. Behind this stone are the remnants, indicating the positions of 18 other menhirs. These were erected around 4500 BC, and the entire makes a rectangular assembly. But this rectangular monument was destroyed between 4300 and 4200 BC. It is still debated or unknown whether these toppled deliberately or on their own. Let's have a look at the table des marchands, the merchant's table. This one has carvings on the stone, and they're quite something to see. Here we can see the 4 pieces of the broken menhir, as well as a satellite picture of a similar rectangular construction on the Isle of Lewis. As well as some of the megalithic symbols and rock art that can be found, and an oryx, the long horned herbivore. Erected in 3900 BC, the Table des Marchands was used or in use until the beginning of the Bronze Age, about 2000 BC. The dolmen are later additions and were erected at the same time as the great menhir that now lies in 4 pieces. Both sides of this big, flat, table-like stone or slab are decorated. And they remain in their original position, although part of the row was destroyed when the great menhir was broken. This slab has an arched shape, and can be classified as a shield idol, which is a common design in this region. As the roof gets higher chamber, which might have been the most holy place in the monument, decorated by crescent-shaped symbols all around. It is thought to signify the spiritual influence of the divinity of the peoples that built it, and perhaps also a function of place of worship for the priests of the culture. There is a gazelle type engraving in the center. On the ceiling, there are engravings of an axe blade and an ox, or the lower part of the ox. The rest of this animal in a carving can be found 4 kilometers away on the roof of the Veneti dolmen on an island in Morbihan Bay. Another part is covering the grave at tumulus, and these 3 parts are thought to have originally formed a single menhir measuring 14 meters high. And now our next stop will be Barnenez, tomb overlooking the Great Western Sea that was built 6,000 years ago, demonstrating some expertise unsuspected or unexpected from this primitive culture. This monument has 11 chambers and a gigantic facade. Some of the chambers have carved and engraved messages that are yet to be understood by modern archaeologists. It is nicknamed the Parthenon of prehistory and thought to be the oldest mausoleum in Europe. After these people were long gone, Celtic tribes came to these regions and parts of Scotland. The tribe that was in this area was called the Veneti. The Veneti were a Celtic tribe and inhabited the entire region of Morbihan, being the strongest tribe in the Côte Armorica. The peoples who had built these megaliths were lost in history by the time the Veneti were there. And later, in the 1st century BC, when Caesar came, he aimed his greatest effort at this powerful tribe of Veneti. Being very good sailors, they possessed a fleet, which made it useless to attack them by land. The decisive struggle, therefore, had to be waged afloat. Caesar had a large number of galleys built at the mouth of the Loire, which were under the command of his lieutenant Brutus. The Veneti Gauls put to sea with 220 large sailing ships with high, strong hulls. The Romans opposed them with their large, flat barges, propelled by oarsmen more appropriate for Mediterranean navigation. The total and unexpected victory of Brutus, however, was due to several factors. A relatively calm sea, which favored the galleys, and the wind that had dropped completely during the battle had becalmed the Veneti in their sailing ships. Also, the Romans had sickles at the end of long poles that they used when a galley drew alongside an enemy sailing ship in order to board it. The galley rode on at full speed, the rope drew taut, and the blade cut the rigging. Thus the mast and the sails came tumbling down. 2 or 3 more galleys then attacked the ship and boarded it. After Brutus' victory, Caesar was able to occupy the country of the Veneti, and as with most of his Gallic wars, made them pay very dearly for the resistance that they had put up. All the members of their senate were put to death, their population sold into slavery, and the following year Caesar built more ships and made an attempt on Great Britain itself. Eventually the sun would set on the power of the Romans, just as it had on the Veneti and the Neolithic builders before them. The monuments standing through the millennia, watching as history plays out. Let's look at some of our travel brochures. Les petits trains des menhirs de Carnac and La Trinité-sur-Mer. So this little train takes you to some of the sites. Les menhirs de Carnac. So we've got the town or village of Carnac. Saint-Michel tumulus. Some alignments there. So the 3 sides of the alignments of Carnac. This is where the train starts, Départ. Another stop here, Carnac plage. So the beach. There's windsurfing there. Trinité-sur-Mer. And this is where you can get a ferry to another site on a small island called Gavrini. And there are the prices for the train with a special summer offer. It says, discover the world's most beautiful Neolithic site on this 50-minute guided tour with its breathtaking and mysterious menhirs and dolmens daydream along the white sand beaches which take you to the harbour of La Trinité-sur-Mer, where sailing lovers and renowned skippers meet. "39 points of interest with commentary." And these are, of course, the guides that we've seen. We've also looked a little bit at some artifacts, and most of these can be found in this Musée de Préhistoire, the premier musée au monde pour le mégalithisme, the best museum in the world for megalithic artifacts. And it says the richest as well. The Museum of Prehistory in Carnac arose from the desire to keep these artifacts near the places where they were discovered. The archaeological collections were found around all of the local megaliths. The founder of the museum, James Milne, was the first and the last one to undertake large-scale excavations in the alignments of standing stones in Carnac. The Museum of Carnac today houses reference collections concerning the Neolithic period, 4900 to 2200 BC, and is essential to the discovery and understanding of the surrounding archaeological sites. Didn't quite get that word, discovery, there we are. I am getting very relaxed, I hope you are too. Do not miss the large alpine jade axes, the polished ornaments imported from Spain, witnesses of the time when Carnac was a great European center of power and wealth in the 5th millennium BC. So this coincides also with the golden age of Greek stories, of Troy, so the heroic age rather. So during those times when the Bronze Age was at its peak just before its collapse, and here you see lots of different expositions and exhibits that are moved in and out at different times of the year. Some of them travel, and hosting of children's groups in schools. And you can hear we are joined by a blue tit outside. La presqu'île Quiberon, the peninsula of Quiberon, and it is connected by this tiny little isthmus there, and then opens up. It's a lovely, lovely place. One of my favorite surfing spots along this Côte Sauvage or wild coast. Very rocky and very beautiful. So as you can see, there are lots of water sports and horse riding, beaches, and it's a lovely, lovely small community. sponsor the arts and music as well as all of the sporting events that occur. I think it's also home to a famous French cyclist. Camping areas as well. And the port, Quiberon, where you can get a ferry to Belle-Île, or beautiful island. Gardens, of course. And as every French city has a Place de la République. They're preparing some sardines and Breton specialties. Almost reminds me a little bit of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, if you've seen that film. And this is a brochure about Belle-Île and the sardines, La Belle-Îloise, some Belle-Île sardines. And there's our map. And you can see the Golfe du Morbihan. All of these dotted white areas that look like islands are actually mostly underwater. It's very swampy. So you can see how this used to be during the Ice Age. It was mostly dry land, and why there are lots of prehistoric finds there. There's Locmariaquer, Morbihan, Carnac, Trinité-sur-Mer, Quiberon, and Belle-Île. And the Bay of Quiberon, and all of the lovely places that you can get these sardines. And two of Morbihan's most beautiful towns, Auray and Vannes, with their medieval village centres. Some of the walls left, especially in Vannes, and the fortifications are still visible. Beautiful, beautiful area to visit. And here we have a Passe des Mégalithes. So you get this stamped every time you visit one of these megalithic sites. This one's the Prehistoric Museum, or the Museum of Prehistory in Carnac. The cairn at Cavrigny. Another cairn at Arsan, Petit-Mont, Arsan. The Carnac alignments, and the Locmariaquer. Thank you for spending this time with me in this study and accompanying me on a tour of some of Brittany's most famous megalithic monuments. I hope you've enjoyed the paper sounds, the history, and prehistoric monuments. Come back anytime. I always like to see you in the study. In the meantime, be good to yourself. Be kind.